Hello and welcome back again to the lecture series, and we were discussing about representation of information. So we found out that the information is closely attached to the context or the representation system in which it is represented. So when we change the context or when we change that system, then the same information being perhaps the same shapes or same symbols or same pictures, whatever be it. So when we change the context of those things, then it starts conveying a different meaning. The transcendental knowledge that we extract from that information changes when the system, when the representation system changes. So there we stopped, and today, since we are discussing about systems of representation, I thought we can go a bit into discussing systems of knowledge that is present in this world. The systems of knowledge which are most prevalent in this world are the Western or the modern knowledge system and the Indic or Vedic systems of knowledge which are present in ancient India. So there were other civilizations as well. They had their own knowledge systems. However, the Indian knowledge system had stood the test of time and is still prevalent and is taken up by many scholars in our country as well as outside in foreign lands. They are pursuing research in our knowledge system and trying to understand what exactly we can gather from that knowledge system, what value it can give to our lives and our civilization as a whole. So this is very important to understand, because both these systems are being studied, are being explored side by side, and one cannot say that one is greater than the other, as we find such people around us who try to claim that the modern or the Western system of knowledge is better than the ancient one, the Indian original system of knowledge. And there are some people who are claiming that the Indian system of knowledge is better than the Western one. But we need to realize that both have given a lot of value, a lot of contribution has been made by both these systems to the human civilization. So we need to understand both of them, though in the modern times our formal education is being done in the Western system of knowledge, and hence we are more we have imbibed the attributes of that system more within us. However, we need to be aware of our own system of knowledge. As Indians especially, we need to slowly develop an understanding, a desire to know, and an exposure towards our own system of knowledge, and understand how it can really give some value addition in our lives. So we know that there are limitations in both the system, have their own limitations as well as their own advantages. So we need to take the advantages from both these systems and put aside the limitations of these systems. Only then we will make ourselves a better individual, not just sticking to one of the system, but taking the best of both and putting it in our lives, using them in our lives. So let us see. So this is just a very brief idea. I will not go into much details. I am not even an expert, but this is just a brief idea of the differences, main points, the key points of difference between these two knowledge systems, the modern or the Western and the Indic or the Vedic. Well, I'm using the term Indic here because in ancient India, Vedic literature consisted of a large, large set of literature, true, but that was not all the literature that was available in the from the ancient times. There are other categories of literature outside the Vedic literature which are also available and which are also imparting some knowledge. So all that can consist of the knowledge system which we can call the Indic knowledge system, not just limited to the Vedic but Indic as a whole. We can use the term. So what are the key points, what are the key points, key features of this knowledge system? So as we have talked a lot about dharma, so what is that dharma of these knowledge systems? What are the distinguishing features of these knowledge systems? So let us see one by one. So the modern knowledge system is reductionist in nature, or by reductionist I mean individualistic in nature. So it tries to understand one thing in its own context without any relation to all the other things it might be connected to. So it just does not care about the connection. So it tries to just analyze and not synthesize. So analysis is like breaking things down into smaller and smaller pieces, and understanding each piece, and trying to understand the features of each of these piece as 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 a as a separate entity without connection to any other entities involved, any other entities around it. So it disregards the connection of an individual entity, be it an object or a human being or any living being. So it disregards the connection of that individual entity to the larger community, the larger population of objects, the larger population of living beings. So it disregards that. So it only tries to understand something by breaking it down into components and understanding one component at a time. So this is the nature, so this is the approach of the modern knowledge system. So this we know because the modern knowledge system has brought out this approach of breaking things down into smaller pieces, more and more, as much as we can. However, the Indic system is holistic in nature, so it tries to understand the connection of each little thing with a larger thing. So this is the idea behind the Indic knowledge systems. So it presupposes that everything in this universe, in this existence, is connected to one another in some way or the other, and it tries to understand that connection. So that is the approach of the Indic knowledge system. I am not saying that the modern knowledge system does not study the connection between two different objects, but when it tries to study the connection between two objects, it only tries to study the connection between those two particular objects and not another third object. So it first studies those two objects, then it tries to introduce a third object, and in that manner it goes. So it is a reductionist method. It is just taking one thing at a time, whereas the Indic system tries to take as many things as possible at the same time and tries to understand, tries to gather a holistic point of view. So it is just a difference of perspective, as you can see. So sometimes you will find So since this is a difference in perspective, you can use this in your life. Sometimes when you find that one perspective is not working, you immediately shift to another perspective and the thing might start to work. So if you find that being an individualist is not working for you, you may try to become a holistic person. And this has been observed. Actually, this nature of this reductionist nature may work well when we are trying to understand the nature of non-living objects, elements, atoms, etc., etc. However, this same approach does not work when we are trying to understand living beings and human beings as such. So this entire Western idea of a reductionist knowledge system has made people very much individualistic in nature, and that has created a lot of problems. That has created a lot of psychological problem in humans, because humans are basically social animals. They are not individualistic people. They need interaction, they need connection, they need to build relationships. And the Western knowledge system has not focused about interaction between people, have not focused in living in a community, which the Indian system had focused on. They stressed living in a large family, they stressed living in a community, they stressed helping out the community. So they always stressed on building connections with people, building relationships with people. So because they understood that that is how a human being would survive, would sustain, would live would live a happy life, a better life, a fulfilling life. As well as the Indic knowledge system has tried to really understand the connection of the individual with the whole. In that sense, what in whole, by saying whole, what I am trying to mean is that concept of God that I talked about, that is the whole of the existence is is conceptualized as God. So God is everything. That is a very common common way of explaining, of trying to make one understand what is God. So God is everything. That is what how people will say God is omnipresent. So what is omnipresent must be everything. So that is a holistic nature. So so in India, the study or the focus had always been to understand the relationship of the individual with that ultimate, with the whole. So that is the holistic idea. So in that way the Indic system of knowledge has really grown. So if you go into studying any knowledge system from ancient India, you will definitely figure out that this is the fundamental notion behind them. They may not have written down it explicitly, but this feature is present in every knowledge system. In every shastra that has been written, they have tried to understand the relationship of the individual with the ultimate. Whereas in the modern, we have tried to break down the ultimate into individual and tried to understand the properties of the individual only. So in that manner, it is a separatist concept. So it separates things from each other. It does not try to understand the connection between each other. Whereas in Indic systems, though the Indic system identifies that there are separate objects, there are separate entities, each individual person is different from each other. However, they are trying to understand what is common in them. What is that unifying feature that unites each of the individual with each other, not just human beings, So the connection between human beings, the unifying nature of human beings, that they are trying to understand, the unifying nature between all living beings they are trying to understand, between all objects present in this universe, between everything that we can observe in this universe, what is that unifying characteristic? So the people in ancient India, the rishis, the sages, were trying to understand this thing. Their lives were devoted in studying this or investigating this particular uh, this particular thing, that what is that unifying thing, what is that holistic thing. So the next point is that abstractions in the modern system can be formally studied. Formally studied means mathematically studied. So when you come across the term formal studies or formal expression, we generally mean mathematical expression and mathematical studies. So sorry. So formal study means mathematical study. So when we study something formally, that means we are trying to study it in a mathematical abstraction level. So we talked about abstraction levels and we understood that mathematics is an abstraction level. So we try to study things in a mathematical abstraction level. So that is the nature of the modern knowledge systems. So modern knowledge system will only acknowledge abstractions which can be formally studied, which can have a mathematical representation. So if you can't give anything a mathematical representation, it does not get acknowledged as a truth. Obviously, philosophies cannot be given mathematical expressions. Psychological phenomena cannot be given mathematical expressions. However, and hence there is always the provision to challenge such ideas. But whenever an abstraction is given a mathematical description, that particular abstraction can no longer be challenged, because that becomes a truth. So the modern approach, the distinguishing feature of the modern approach is that the abstractions are getting formally studied. However, in the ancient India, they did not have any such direction of or any such motivation, I may say, to study the abstractions formally. And it might be the case that the abstractions that they talked about and they dealt with may be beyond formal studies. Just as I pointed out, philosophies are beyond mathematical expressions. Psychological understandings are maybe beyond mathematical expressions. And in the Vedic system, they were trying to understand the nature of human beings and its relation with the ultimate cause of everything, which they termed as God. So they are trying to understand the relationship between the individual human being with God. So you can understand the level of abstraction that they were trying to grasp, and it may be well beyond formal studies. Because and the way that they defined it will obviously be beyond formal studies, because the God is defined as the ultimate of everything, so the source of everything. So if mathematical abstraction is something having some real existence, by real existence I am not meaning observable existence, but real existence can be abstraction also. So but all such existence has come out of some ultimate source. So if it has come out of that ultimate source, if mathematics the abstraction level of mathematics has come out of that ultimate source, so it definitely resides at an abstraction level which is lesser than the ultimate. So we cannot catch the ultimate with the help of that particular abstraction level. So the abstractions that Indian philosophers were talking about may be well beyond formal studies. The third distinguishing feature of uh, modern knowledge system is a focus on the advancement of technology. It focuses on the advancement of technology, while technological innovations are what sustains or what drives the human civilization. Their focus is to make machines, make innovations, so that they can help the human being, it can help the human civilization to progress, to make lives easier for them. So that was the intention, that was the motivation. But that motivation to make lives better has given the energy, has directed the energy in advancement of technology. And technology as such is basically something which is outside the human being. So they are relying on something outside the human being to improve the life of the human being. So there might be a false notion of what should be improvement in the quality of life. So the notion of improvement in the quality of life in modern knowledge system is that the particular human being would not be would not be required to work a lot, would not be required to think a lot, would not be required to move their muscles. They could uh, take leisure breaks more and more. So this is the idea of making the quality of life better. So but what they are trying to do, so if they don't want the human being to exercise their muscles, if they don't want the human being to think, so what the human being will do? Human being is supposed to do all these things. We have been given limbs, we have been given the brain, so that we can work, we can think, and we can solve problems. So in that we are engaging, we are trying to solve problems, but we are trying to solve a different problem. Actually we are trying to propose a solution which actually hits back on us. So in the notion that we are making the quality of life better for ourselves, we are actually degrading the quality of life. We are actually making human beings think lesser, and that is dumbing down our intelligence. We are making the human beings work less, and that is degrading our physical abilities. So this is how the focus on advancement of technology, though it has led to a lot of different innovations, lot of different engineering marvels and technological marvels, has it really empowered the human being? How has it really advanced the human capability? Has it really advanced the human potential? That is the question, and people are beginning to ask that question. And there comes the Indic culture, the Indic knowledge system, where the focus from the very beginning was on human capacity enhancement. They formulated knowledge systems, shastras, so that the human capacity is improved more and more, more and more. We get enriched, we get progressed from within within ourselves. So our inherent potential is increased, and we try to increase it more and more as much as possible. So thus the systems of knowledge that had been formed in ancient India, if you take a look at that, you will easily understand that what they are trying to focus on, what they're trying to aim is the growth of the human potential. The shastras that were formed there, like Natya Shastras, like singing, Sangeet, like Dhanurvidya, so like Artha Shastra, so like Yoga Shastra. So all these different shastras that are there, all are focusing on the human capacity, all are focusing on making a better individual, better person, better human being, capable in all respect, capable from all the sides. He's not just a muscle man, but a muscle man who can sing as well. So so in that way the system of knowledge was developed. So that actually focuses on development of the human being. So that idea is that is the idea of the Indic knowledge system. And so we got an understanding of the difference between the two knowledge systems, and perhaps we can choose the best of the best attributes, whichever we feel is a better attribute, or a good attribute to inculcate in your lives, to take in our lives. We will try to understand those things and try to imbibe them in our lives, so that we can move forward, we can build ourselves in a better way, as a better human being. So this knowledge system, the modern knowledge system, as we found, it is reductionist in nature and focuses on advancement of technology only. So that question that we started our class with, started this course with, why are we here? So maybe the modern knowledge system can answer this question in the context of the coursework, in the context of the classroom. However, the Indic knowledge system is able to answer this question in the universal context, because it is holistic and focuses on human capacity enhancement. So we can understand ourselves, and we can understand our connection, our relationship with the complete existence. So if that is the question you are looking for, that is the question that is bothering you, that is the answer you are looking for, you have to go and find it in the Indic knowledge system. However, if you are only concerned about the coursework, the modern knowledge system, it is delivering courseworks like this all the while, all the time, everywhere, and it will continue delivering it. So it is available to you. So it is the norm nowadays to follow the modern knowledge system. However, the gems and the knowledge, the what I should the diamonds, the pearls of wisdom which are there in the Indic knowledge system, are lying there to be discovered by you, by those who would pursue, those who would take the interest. It is not available for all of us in a common framework. So we are not being taught this knowledge system, but we can pursue. It is available for all of us. If you are inquisitive enough, it is available for you. So you just need to ask, you just need to have the right frame of mind and the right attitude to look at it and try to understand it. With this, we move on to the number system. So the number system is something which we will use in our coursework. We have to understand in the purview of the coursework. So we are talking about representation of information, and the systems of representation of information, and these are the systems of representation of numbers. So number system is a certain system of representation of numbers. So a system to represent what is number. Number is something which gives us the knowledge, gives us the information about the quantity of something. Quantity, measure, is given out by a number. So we write down a number, it gives us an idea of some quantity, some measurement. So the system to represent the abstract information of the quantity of something is a number system. See, the quantity of something is an abstract one, is an abstract information. So when we say that there is one apple, so we only see the apple, we don't see one. When we say two apples, we see apples, we don't see two. So 2 is an abstract idea, 3 is an abstract idea, which are linked to the apples. That is true, but they are not to be seen. You cannot take out 2 from the apple, you cannot take out 3, you cannot take out 1 from the apple and show me that one. Though we have a clear understanding and idea of what you mean when you say 2 apples, when you say 3 oranges, or when you say 4 bananas, we have a clear understanding of what you mean. But we only see bananas, we don't see 4. We only see oranges, we don't see 3. Okay, but what you mean by 3 oranges and what I picture as 3 oranges, that will remain same for everyone to picture like that. Though we don't see 3 as something separately. So that is an abstract idea. So that idea is in our head. The idea of 3 is in our head. What we see is the orange. So the system to represent this abstract information of the quantity of something is called a number system. And how it works? A number system basically consists of symbols, certain symbols which have a consistent meaning, well-defined quantitative meaning, placed in an orderly and pre-designated fashion in order to represent a specified value. So that ordered set of symbols is called a number. It has to be ordered, and every symbol which we use in a number must have a meaning of its own, and each of these symbols must be placed in an orderly and pre-designated fashion so that we gather a definite knowledge from it. So when we represent the quantity 12 in some popular number systems, so in decimal number systems, 1 and 2 placed side by side is the only number. Number is a representation of the quantity, and representation by placing the symbols in an orderly and pre-designated manner. So the symbols here are 1 and 2 placed in an orderly manner. So if we reverse the order, it does not remain 12 anymore. So that is important to note. This number, this quantity 12, if we need to represent it in decimal number, we have to use the symbols 1 and 2 only, and we have to place them like this, 1 and followed by 2, 1 in the left and 2 at its right. There is no other way of doing it. There is no other number in decimal system which will represent the quantity 12, because each number is a set of symbols placed in an orderly and predesignated manner so that it represents only one particular quantity, not any other quantity. Perhaps this is very evident for you, but one needs to realize this as well. One needs to realize how precise the people who formulated number systems had been, so that there is no mistake of representation of one particular quantity by more than one number. Then there would be confusion, there would be a lot of confusion. You imagine that situation if we had more than one number representing one particular quantity, or if we had one number representing more than one quantity, how much confusion it will create. From now on, I will also advise you to keep a note when I am using the word number and when I am using the word quantity or value. These are two different things, closely linked to each other, having a one-to-one correspondence. However, they are different things. Number is a representation using sets of symbols placed in an orderly manner. That is the number. So here binary number, decimal number, octal number, hexadecimal number. Binary quantity? No. Quantity is not binary. Number is binary. Octal quantity? No. Octal is a number, not a quantity. Decimal value? No. Decimal number. Value is not a number. Value is a quantity. Value and quantity are some measure of something, quantity of something. We represent that quantity using some symbols, that those symbols is the number. Please put this very well in your mind, and with the help of this separation, only with the help of this separation, we will be able to understand this subject in a better manner. Otherwise things will be hodgepodge, things will be confused in your mind. And if you will go and look in the web, so there are a lot of materials available in the internet. They will not try to distinguish between numbers and quantities in the manner that I am trying to do. And that leads to confusion. Really it does. And so I would ask you, I would make an earnest request that you try to follow the language that I am using. Language is very important. Language is the device of communication, is the tool of communication that we have with us, so that we can transmit our knowledge from us to another. So whatever knowledge I am having with me, I am trying to transmit that to you, but the tool I have to use is the English language, and hoping that you also know the English language in a fairly well manner, in a fairly good level of understanding. I am hoping that what I am trying to transmit to you would reach to you. But you have to also be careful in listening and in understanding each of the words that I am saying in a precise manner, and start using the language in that level of precision. So here, as you see, again I will go through this. The quantity 12 or the value of 12 is represented in decimal number like this, 1 2, is represented in binary number like this, 1 1 0 0, in octal number system like this, 1 4, in hexadecimal number system like this, C. So these are the symbols which we use, and this particular set of symbols placed in this particular order all represent the same quantity 12. So we change the system, the number also changes. So like you can take an example of this binary. So this number 1100, so this set of symbols placed in orderly manner 1100. So if we just give you 1100 and ask you what is the quantity, what is its value, what is the value in this of this number, what is the quantity that is represented by this number, you should immediately ask what is the number system in which this is represented. You should not say it is 1100 or 1100 like that. You should say what is the number system in which this is represented. If this is in decimal number system, it is of course 1100. But if this is in binary, or if this is in octal, if this is in hexadecimal or some other number system, its meaning would change. The quantity it represents would be something else. So we need to be very careful from now on. We need to be very careful not to jump into conclusions, but to understand all aspects of the problem and then extract the meaning out of it. Let us look into some ancient number systems and try to understand. So this would give us a perspective and some revelation as well of how beautiful the modern number system is. So not all ancient things are good, right? So so this is a in Egyptian number system. So in this Egyptian number system, as you can see, the value of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the values are written in the Roman numbers, sorry, not Roman, these are Arabic numbers, Arabic numerals. So written in the Arabic numerals, and the symbols that are used to represent those quantities are given in these symbols that you can see. So the straight vertical lines, so as many straight vertical lines, that much is the quantity. So when they go from 9 to 10, they change the symbol. So that is something they were doing. And 100 has another symbol, then 1000 has this symbol of a flower, and this sort of flower we had seen in the Super Mario games. So if you had played those games in DOS and in your TV video games, you would know. Then there is this 10,000, it is represented by a very elongated finger, and then 100,000, which is 1 lakh, is represented by a toad. So toad means 1 lakh. So and then like these other symbols are there. So if you want to represent the quantity which is given in the left, like 115639, which is 1,15,639, you see the representation is so cumbersome in the Egyptian manner. So we could just use 6 symbols in the decimal number system, whereas it takes 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 25 symbols it takes to represent this number in the Egyptian number system. This happens because of some reason, and that reason is something to understand in a very well established manner. We need to understand that reason. We would come across it shortly, but before that we will see another number system, which is the Roman number system. Here also it is quite similar to the Egyptian number system. However, instead of pictures, they have given some alphabetical symbols. But the process is still cumbersome. So in order to represent that number, which is 1,15,639, let me see if I remember it correctly. Yes, 1,15,639. So in order to represent that, if you know the Roman number system, I challenge you to try representing that and see if it is easy or not. And the real problem here is that since the representation is so cumbersome and we have to use so many symbols, we the tendency is for the people in this sort of civilizations will be not to use large numbers. Generally, in our day-to-day lives, we don't need to use large numbers. However, for the progress of science, mathematics is so important, and mathematics does not limit itself to only a set of numbers. It has all the numbers possible in this universe, from minus infinity to plus infinity, complex numbers, so many different things, rational numbers, irrational numbers. There is no limitation. So if you are not able to represent numbers, represent quantities properly, if you are not able to represent quantities properly by using a particular number, then you will not have an idea of that quantity itself. So you can't imagine that quantity, you can't ideate that quantity, and if you can't ideate that, or you can't have an abstract idea of that quantity, you will not be able to use that quantity in order to progress in science. So for the progress of science as a whole, the modern number system has immense value. It has perhaps the ultimate value, the modern number system, because the representation of quantities, whatever they be, is made simpler in the modern number systems, like the decimal, the octal, the binary, hexadecimal. All these are modern number systems, and there is a structure now, and this structure was able to be put there because of something. And I would ask my class, do you know what that thing is? And they probably would not be able to answer it, and I will say this. I will show this slide. 0. 0 is that number which really revolutionized the world of science. It has revolutionized, because 0 enabled the conversion, or not the conversion, the transcendence, or going up the level from the ancient number systems to the modern number systems. 0 is that number which contributed to transformation of transformation of the representation of quantities with modern number systems. It enables the representation of quantities with modern number systems. And as you know, so this is a very moment of pride for all of us being Indians, that 0 is the contribution of India to this world. So there is a joke also. If you have come across this joke or not, I don't know. So this is something that one asks an Indian. So what is your contribution to science? So the Indian says 0. So it can be taken in two different manners. So, and there comes the laugh. However, one needs to take great pride in this, because without this number 0, the modern number systems could not be developed, and without the modern number systems, the ideation of any quantity, as large as possible, as small as possible, could not be ideated. Whatever be the quantity, rational, irrational, complex, whatever, they could not be ideated unless there was the modern number system. And the modern number system came into being only because of the conceptualization of zero. But there is a sort of a, what should I say? This is a paradox, something a bit paradoxical, zero. Because whatever be the number system, ancient or modern, we are trying to count or measure something. We are trying to give a quantitative value of something, right? So that thing is there, and only when the thing is there we are trying to understand how much is it, how much of it is there. So this is always a count or measure of something. However, what is zero? When we say zero of something, that thing stops existing. Suddenly it is not there anymore. But only when something is there with us, we are bothered about measuring it or counting it, and hence we suppose that the conceptualization of a quantity which is zero would not be meaningful, because we don't use it. We don't need to use it. Correct? Because if we say zero, then immediately that thing disappears. It vanishes like this dodo. It becomes extinct. It vanishes from front of us. So that was the limitation in the thought process of various of most ancient civilizations. That was the limitation of the thought process. They could not imagine something which is not existing, and they did not think that they did not think of conceptualizing that idea of non-existence, because they were always dealing with something that is in front of them, which is existing so much in close association with them. They are working with something, they are interacting with something. So they were all caught up with things which they were seeing, they were observing, and they were unable to understand in their experience that there can be something which is not existing, and there is a whole lot of meaning to it, whole lot of meaning to the concept of being non-existent. But this was not beyond the concept, not beyond the imagination of the Vedic civilization or the Indic civilization. Why? Why so? Because the Indic civilization conceptualized, they understood the concept of absence, because they used this concept of absence in order to define the supreme cause, which they termed as Brahma. Brahma, or what we can call as God. So they used this idea of absence in defining the supreme cause, or Brahma. How did they define it? So as I already had given you some hints, they tried to define God or Brahma. It's not Brahma, but Brahma. So there is a difference. So Brahma, as ideated, is the creator of the universe, whereas Brahma is the ultimate cause of everything. So they try to so they use the idea of absence in order to try to define Brahma. And why did they do that? Because I already gave you a hint how they conceptualized Brahma is to be the supreme cause of everything. So if something is the supreme cause of everything, in those things which it has caused, you might not be able to observe it, but it is still there as the cause behind them, behind the manifestations. The cause behind the manifestations, not present in the manifestations in its original form. So that's why the idea of absence was important. And whatever we observe in the manifestations, we can say that that particular observation we will not be able to observe in Brahma. So that idea of not, the idea of negation, was very much prevalent in Indic civilization because they used it to define the ultimate cause or Brahma or God to them. So let us see how they defined Brahma. So just with this idea that whatever we observe in the observable world, whatever attributes the observable world is having, the ultimate cause would not have that. So in that way they are trying to define Brahma. So you see what they are saying. So they said that Brahma is devoid of origin, middle and end, because they found that everything in their experience has a beginning, has an end, and has some middle, or that means something happens for some time, or there is a thing which has a end, a front, a back, and a middle section. So the Brahma would not have this. It would be devoid of origin, middle and end. It would be spotless and untarnished, because they observed that things in this existence has spots, become tarnished. So the supreme cause should not be like that. It should be spotless and untarnished. It should be without gender, because they observed that living beings are with gender. They are either male or female or some other gender. So the supreme cause must be devoid of gender. It should be devoid of any physical form as well, because everything they encounter around themselves has a form, has a shape, has a size. So the ultimate cause, Brahma, must not have any physical form, cannot have any physical form, according to their conceptualization of Brahma. It should be without actions, because everything in existence imparts some action, does some activity. So the Brahma must not be with action, without action, without properties. So just saying this is sufficient actually. So everything has some or the other property by which we can characterize them, dharma, by which we can distinguish them. So so everything is characterized by some property or the other. So Brahma is something which should not have any property. It is propertyless, without properties, without guna, nirguna. You may have heard this term when someone around you have tried to give you some idea about Brahma. Nirguna, they would say, without properties, without guna. These reflect the concept of zero, because we are zeroing things, as you say. There is gender, we are zeroing the gender. There is a physical form, we are zeroing that physical form. There are properties, we are zeroing that properties, those properties. So if you zero everything, then you reach the supreme cause or Brahma. There, nothing is there, nothing exists. That is Brahma. That which is not is Brahma. So in this manner, in this great philosophical, with this great philosophical insight, the ancient sages understood God. They termed it as Brahma. And everything that came into existence, they philosophized, are manifestations of Brahma. We go ahead and try to understand zero in a more detailed manner. Though, and this is just the paradox, I'll just point that this paradox now. So though it is devoid, it is zero of, it is with zero properties, it is with zero actions, and everything, when we make zero, we are going to Brahma. However, the sages also said that Brahma happens to be everything, happens to be the complete one, happens to be the ineffable. Ineffable means indescribable, happens to be all that is not. It is indescribable. Why? What I will use to describe? I will use some properties, some form. So these all the things that is in the left hand side. We must need these things to describe something. If that particular thing which we try to describe does not have any of these things, then it is indescribable. And if something becomes indescribable, and it is complete one, because whatever we see around us has some limitation, we observe it is limited. If we zero the limitations, that means we are conceptualizing the completeness. The limitations are zero, there is no limitations, so that means it is complete. So suddenly from zero we are coming to a completeness, a whole. From zero we automatically come to the idea of whole, and then it happens to be everything. It happens to be everything. So that everything, all, reflects the concept of infinity. Isn't it so? Just put your thought behind this, put your mind behind this, that everything happens to be infinity in the sense of numbers. And if you know, infinity was also proposed to the scientific world by an Indian person, Indian mathematician. So you must take pride in being of Indian origin and pursuing science, because science would not have progressed much further unless the concepts of zero and infinity were proposed, and both of these came from people of Indian origin. I hope you must have seen the movie The Man Who Discovered or something, Infinity, the man who knew infinity. So if you don't, you can go back and watch the movie, though I have not watched the movie, but I have heard that it is a very well made one. So what we observe is that both zero and infinity reflects the idea of Brahma, which was conceptualized by the ancient philosophers and sages. Maybe because of this reason, because of the conceptualization of Brahma like this, the culture and the idea is so strong that it remained with us for generations and generations and led to the discovery or the proposition of these numbers 0 and infinity, reflecting the nature of Brahma. This could not be proposed by any other civilizations. Is it just a mere coincidence? I personally would not agree with that it is just a coincidence. I would like to believe that the strong foundation of our culture, the strong foundation of our Vedic civilization, the ideas from there led to the proposition of 0 and infinity. Let us dive further down. So the supreme cause or Brahma is also termed as the root cause of everything, the self created. So it does not have a creator because it is the creator of all. So if you say that the creator of all would also have a creator, then that would become the creator of all. So it is just the supreme cause. So you can't go beyond it. So this is the trick that the sage has played with you. So you cannot go beyond it. So it is the root cause. It is the self created. It is the eternal witness. Eternal witness means it is observing everything. So it is observing everything means it is there in every phenomenon that is happening in this world. It is witnessed. It is witnessing. Every phenomenon is witnessed by it. It is the first, the root cause, same, beyond physical senses. So you cannot limit it with your physical senses. It is beyond that. It is omnipresent, present everywhere. Same as being eternal witness, almost same. So these are having very fine differences. So these are some other ways in which Brahma has been described. This has a strong connection with 0 in the number system. So when we look into the number system a bit deeply, we will understand that these properties are manifested by 0. So as such, we can say that 0 is the Brahma in number systems. We could say like that. So in the universe or in the world of numbers, 0 is Brahma. So anyway, so yeah, so here I will just show you a shloka from Upanishad. Upanishads are some parts of Vedas which contained spiritual discourses. So in one of the Upanishad, this shloka is mentioned, and this is having a great revelation. What is the shloka? Purnamada purnamidam purnat purnamudachyate purnasya purnamadaya purnameva vashishyate. What does it mean? It is saying this, which I have given in the left hand side. Purna. So you just understand that there is something which we term as Purna, and you know what Purna means because you are an Indian. Purna is complete, full. The idea of fullness, the idea of completeness, the idea of wholeness is Purna. It is not like a tank full of water. No, it is much beyond that. A full tank of water will not represent the idea of fullness. The idea of fullness is full, everything, whole, completeness. So that idea, if you represent it with a term purna, so then we can say, as per this shloka, so this shloka is basically a formula. As per this shloka, you can say purna arises out of purna. When purna is added to purna, what one gets is purna. When purna is taken away from purna, what is left is purna. So if you now symbolize purna with F, then as per this shloka, F plus F will be equals to F, F minus F will also be equals to F. And we know that both these equations is satisfied by 0 and infinity. This is a property satisfied by both 0 and infinity. So what you understand, what is the concept of purna? Purna being the concept of Brahma, same, complete one, the full, the whole one. 0 and infinity satisfies both these equations which are used to describe Brahma. So this property is satisfied by both 0 and infinity. It is not positive, it is not negative, not fraction, not complex, but all of this, both 0 and infinity, satisfies these properties which are the properties of Brahma. Not positive, not negative, not fraction, not complex. In the world of numbers, however, in the world of numbers, in whatever sense you want to characterize numbers, you want to characterize quantities by terming them positive, negative, fraction, complex, all these things, these characters, these properties does not hold for 0 and infinity. They are complete in their own sense, and they satisfy that equation which is used for describing the complete one, the Brahma. So they are the complete, they are like Brahma in the world of numbers. All numbers that will ever be meet at 0 and infinity. That means they stretch between 0 and infinity. 0 and infinity are like the two faces of the same coin, the coin being, we can say that it is the supreme of all numbers, and they could be used as symbols of Brahma or the ultimate cause, as philosophized in the Vedas. That is the power of 0 and infinity, that is the relevance of 0 and infinity, that I want you to reflect back, sit and think on it for some time. And if you really grasp this idea, you will feel pride. Then you will feel pride. Only by understanding, only by realizing the greatness in this idea. Pride must not be shallow, must not be hollow. So nowadays there is a lot of call for being proud as to be Indian. But what is there to be proud about? One must ask this. Just being born in a nation does not mean that I should be proud of that nation. I should be proud of such things of greatness that has come out of this nation. If such things of greatness had not came out of this nation, it had not given birth to such great ideas and concepts. It has not given birth to such great people who have led their lives in such a way and conceptualized such great things, have created such great art, literature and ideas in science, all these things. So those are the things to to be proud about. So that is the pride that you should hold in your heart. And that is not some pride to be egoistic about. It is a pride which inspires you. It does not make you egoistic. It inspires you to do something better in your own lives. Being born from the same soil as these great ideas, you are also capable of delivering something good to this world, of something value to this world. So that is where you should put your mind to. That is where you should focus on. That is where you should target. You should aim at that, in that direction. So here, with this, I would like to end this lecture, and from the next lecture we will go deep down into number systems and try to understand the relevance of zero there, and slowly take up the different number systems one by one and go into the logic systems after that, and thereby we'll start more, we would dive deeper into our course of digital electronics.